Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Slave Food Conversation, where we honor and celebrate National Nutritional Month, Colorectal Cancer Awareness Month, and Women's History Month. I'm your host, Danette Batiste, and I welcome you to another episode of the Slave Food Conversation. Where two African American physicians, Dr. Columbus Batiste, cardiologist, and Dr. Eric Walsh, emergency room physician and doctorate of public health, explore the role of racism as a unique form of stress and the weaponization of food in the creation of health disparities in African American communities, irrespective of income. They discovered that eating a whole food plant based diet in urban communities is possible and is the key to eliminating health disparities. Good evening, guys.
Good
Hey,
evening.
how are you?
I'm fantastic. How are
Oh,
you?
oh man, I hate to say I'm excited to talk about a subject like this because it's not necessarily exciting, but I think it's important that we talk about this subject today of colon cancer, you know?
I
It's really
agree. And the last time we broached this topic, we were addressing at that time was the recent passing of Chadwick Boseman, and so this is like our, in a sense, our follow up to that. It's still a very important topic, and so I'm glad that we are addressing it as our people are in many ways disproportionately at risk.
yeah,
Yeah, and
absolutely.
actually just referencing what you said about the Chadwick Boseman, like it was a big deal back then, right? But as time kind of passed, passed on, and the news just became less and less, relevant or closer to the event. You really don't hear as much conversation about it. So it's really important that we're having this conversation today.
Yeah, yeah. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention, close and personal to us, Jeanette, and
Mhm.
Eric, you too as well, is we have several individuals that are really close to our hearts and dear friends who've been struck by colon
Mhm.
cancer,
Mhm.
and it's seeming like always out of the blue. One
Right.
took a dear friend's life, and
Mhm.
the other is really in the process of overcoming. And so
Yes.
I definitely want to dedicate this show to both of them. They know who they are. I don't want to call them out like that, on air, but they know who they are, the families of the individual who passed away, and for the individual who's overcoming in the process of overcoming right now, you know that we're with you. Our prayers are with you, and we're doing this for you. All right. So let's dig into just a little bit. We'll dig into this and then let's bring on our featured guests that we have. But I think it's important as we kind of talk about some of these things and as you look at every single disease ailment, it really fits into, unfortunately, the whole slave food project. We talk about living sicker, dying sooner, and we see that colorectal cancer, it's the second deadliest cancer in the country. And the thing is the fact that it's ravaging the Black community. And
Mhm.
this is the words of the director of the American Cancer Society, right? Is that the vice president is really about this impact here.
Yeah. And I'd have to say, I did not know that it was a second leading cause of death in our community. So, just knowing and hearing that is eye opening for me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And, the other thing is the fact that it's like we mentioned, it's attacking us. Once again, we're living sicker, dying sooner. We're more likely to die, 40% more likely to die as African Americans and other groups. But the thing is, it's really kind of attacking all Americans is the
That's
key
right.
thing. Other thing that we kind of look at is the fact that it's happening younger. So, you cross this bridge and you think, oh man, this is something I don't have to worry about for a while. But now the recommendations are that you get your colon cancer screening. So I don't want to get personal, but go ahead, Eric.
No, I was going to say. I mean, how old was Chadwick Boseman when he passed? He was in his.
Late
Uh,
30s, maybe?
yeah, I don't think he was 45 yet. I don't
No,
remember.
No.
not at all.
My point just is this is why screening, in a sense, is vital, but it may not be enough.
Correct.
Simply following the recommendations
Mhm.
may not be enough. And so, one of the reasons we focus on a whole food, plant based lifestyle is because it is the other part of lowering the risk, as we'll talk about.
And as it
Absolutely.
relates to the screenings, I mean, is that just that stool sample screening, or are we talking about the full on invasive, drinking the stuff. Is that
Go lightly.
like, which one are we talking about?
Isn't it funny? Isn't it a funny name? Go lightly. It don't make you go lightly.
No,
I'm
but
just
the reason they
calling
call
it
it go
stuff.
lightly is because of the electrolytes. If you read when I was in residency, I read the Bible like that's what it's a go lightly, go with the electrolytes because you don't go lightly. That's for sure.
Yeah.
But I think any of the accepted screening modalities. So you can do a fecal occult blood test annually, colonoscopy every 10 years. But you have to meet the basic standards of what is presented as acceptable for screening.
Okay, so it's after 45 or at 45, and then once you do that, it's every 10 years from there.
For colonoscopy.
Okay,
for the colonoscopy.
Okay.
And if your level of risk is higher, and we'll talk about that momentarily, you might want to consider it. So for myself, I'm about ready. I'll go ahead and put out there to load up to do the colonoscopy. All right. And I'll be honest, I wasn't looking forward to it, but it's something that I feel is necessary to ensure that I'm taking care of myself, for myself and for the family, just to be certain about things.
And I don't want to put your business out there, but you're a little bit older than 45, no? I'm just.
Why? Wait a minute now. All right, I see. We're going there now. Okay.
Yes, I am too. Let me just jump out in front of there. Like I turned 50 last year, so I guess we are both.
You don't look 50, girl, so it's okay. You don't look 50, so it's all right. But moving on anyway. You know what? Okay. We know that stress plays a role, and that's the crazy part. You can find the role of stress in every single ailment.
Absolutely.
And it's insane. It's insane just the impact of stress in our lives and really what it does. And so this was. Yeah,
I want to throw in there and when we were in medical school, this wasn't talked about. I mean, I would have never had an attending physician in one of my rounding. I was rounding on the oncology ward or in internal medicine. I would never have had one of them say, being under incredible amounts of stress might increase your risk of colon cancer. Then this goes back to a lot of what we talk about on the Slave Food Project.
Absolutely. So, we know that we talk about risk factors in that. And like you're saying, like, when do you have to do it? I think the higher the burden, family history, polyps that are there, all these types of things become important. Obviously, if you had that before, or if you have one of these inflammatory bowel issues, right? So it seems like those are becoming more prevalent. Ulcerative colitis and Crohn's disease, all these types of things increase a person's risk. Or if you unfortunately had to have radiation because of another type of cancer in the past, it predisposes you. And so I think when you look at all those things in context, knowing your family history, which some people don't know, right? Depends upon your family dynamics. You may not know it. So you have to look at what the burden of risk is in our community, right? And this is early detection. This is not prevention. Early detection is what this is.
All right.
Yeah. So where are the symptoms that can be there? It's, changing your bowel habits, right? Diarrhea, constipation. It could be any or all the above. Narrowing of your stool pattern. I mean, people don't like to look at their stool. I mean, I don't want to get graphic and ask you guys, have you looked at your stool pattern? But people don't like to look at that. And then rectal bleeding as well. Those are some.
And I think one of the key things that being that I'm the medical director for urgent care is the thing that says more than a few days. People come into me and they have these symptoms sometimes for months.
Yes.
And when we refer them on and start getting them worked up, they have really advanced disease. So, if you have, you're constipated for 2 or 3 days after you went on a cruise and was eating all kind of white bread stuff in the line, okay. But, if you 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks, someone who's normally regular and you're having days go by where you're not having bowel movements or you're just having diarrhea all the time, that definitely needs to be checked out.
So Absolutely. It can be loose or infrequent.
Yes. I mean, that's what happened. I had a colleague who passed away from advanced colorectal cancer, and he thought he was just stressed. Thought he had a little indigestion as a interventional cardiologist. Finally decided to go and get checked out, and he had just advanced stage colon cancer. And it was just such a horrible thing years ago. So these are the things that we see, other symptoms, just being tired, cramping, pain. And like Eric mentioned, just the persistence of it, or really losing weight without trying, right?
You're not absorbing things. You're losing nutrients at that point, and the energy that cancer takes from you, in a sense. really can cause you to lose weight.
Yeah. So those are the things. This slide's a little bit busy, and I usually hate saying that when I make that statement. But basically, this goes over your question that you were asking before about the benefits of kind of doing the fecal occult blood versus going in and doing colonoscopy. This is a recent study done out of New England, a review article out of New England Journal of Medicine, one of the premier studies that's showing about in terms of the impact on mortality, the impact on overdiagnoses and what can happen in each particular type of test. And it's a wonderful review for physicians out there who may be there. So, as we kind of go through here's the main gist of all this stuff. What we know is what we talk about, food. And I just want to highlight this one slide right here, which says that go back to this one slide. It says differences in the gut microbiome. And we'll talk about this with Gigi in just a few moments. In this early onset, that it's talking about this it's attributable to African Americans, and the cause of it basically is from our dietary components, right? Absolutely. And talking about with the foods that we eat, the fat, the protein, and the meat. And this is from research. It's from literature that shows it. And the wonderful study we always reference in the Slave Food Project is we talked about how they swapped the diets. They took the diets of South Africans and swapped the diets of those inside of Pittsburgh, from the fries and the burgers and the chicken, and put like a plant predominant diet of whole grains. And what they found was that there you turned on and turned off the early markers for colon cancer. And so there's power as it relates to our lifestyle and the things that we choose to do and put into our bodies. The White House is acknowledging it. And it's so interesting when they say these things is when we look at the components. Biden just released this and talked about that eating meats that we need to eat meals that include fruits and vegetables and whole grains to reduce our risk, things that we know. And so this is something that the world is increasingly knowing and learning about, and it's important. So I just wanted to take a few moments just to kind of review some of these points that I'm sure are going to come back right again as we bring on Gigi. And I'm excited. But Danette, go ahead.
And before we go into that, we've got a couple of comments I just wanted to address now. One, Karen Evans said that it's only natural if you look at your stool. How would you know whether something is wrong or not in terms of looking at the stool? And then she said even your pets check their stools. So, And then there's also the comment about cramping in the abdomen area or belly is what exactly? Because, there could be, menstrual cramps, or like, how do you differentiate this belly cramp and the level of frequency?
Yeah, I think that's something I always advise patients, whether or not I'm talking about the heart or anything else, is that you're comparing. Is it worse than things you've experienced in the past? Is it something that's persistent? Is it increasing in intensity? And that change has to bring about a level of concern that you begin to ask your provider about it and see, hey, is there some correlation? If you're lactose intolerant and you still continue to eat that cheesy macaroni and cheese to some people out there, then that's a problem, right? You know what it's going to do to you. We know it's going to cause cramping. It's going to cause a change in your stool patterns and everything else like that. So, but you want to make sure that you take that stuff under advisement and at least get checked out as we reach a certain age, certain risk factors, and ethnicity.
Okay.
And just to add in with cramping, one of the things that we see with cramping that comes from the intestinal tract, it often radiates. It often is all over the place when it starts cramping. Which is different. I've never had menstrual cramps, obviously, but different. The menstrual cramps are often focused and will be the same every single month.
Okay, so you'll know the difference because it'll be different.
Exactly.
Okay. All right, 2 quick ones, and then we'll go into the intro. Donna Green Goodman says that African American diet swap is her favorite study. So we want to definitely acknowledge that. And then someone in the chat wanted to know how old you were, Dr. Batiste. I think his name was Guillermo Henry. I might have started something, but they want to know, because
it's no problem. It's no problem.
Would like to know.
Listen. I'm in my 50th year. Let's put it like that. I turn 50 this coming September. Is what I turn 50 this coming September. So my goal is to stay healthy, stay well, living a life of purpose and intention is the goal.
You want to look like Guillermo Henry when you get to be his age. Exactly.
Hey,
that's what you're shooting for.
I actually thought I was older than Guillermo Henry. So there you go.
All right. Thank you very much. So the Slave Food team is honored to have a special guest with us, Gigi Jones, also known as Gigi the Vegan, to this critical conversation concerning the harsh realities of colon cancer. Gigi the Vegan, as she is well known as, transformed the defeat of the diagnosis of colon cancer into victory or remission through nutrition. As a result of her transformation, she has rededicated her life to spreading the message of health. Gigi is the author of the cookbook, The V Code, a certified raw food chef, health educator, dietitian, nutritionist, and owner of Gigi's Vegan and Wellness Cafe. Gigi is also the founder of the Midwest Soul Vegfest, which is an annual health educational and plant-based vegan event, and it promotes health and wellness. On this episode, as you've heard so far, the doctors will continue to share the ultimate guide on how you can beat colon cancer.
All right.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh man, thanks for joining us. How are you?
I am doing well. Just getting back from Florida, and I'm a little bit off centered, I think, with the Jones.
Oh, I was like, yeah, you were checked in early. Now, Gigi, you haven't met Eric Walsh. Eric Walsh, my partner, colleague, friend, longtime friend as well. This is the Gigi Jones. And
I know how you're feeling. I caught a red eye last night back from California, so and I'm on the East Coast. So
yes, absolutely, I definitely understand that. I was in West Palm Beach at a place called Hippocrates Health Institute, teaching some workshops and etc. And I was there for 21 days actually. So
wow.
Yeah, coming back to Kansas City, and it's a little chilly. It's definitely
compared to West Palm. Yep.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure meeting you as well.
Good to meet you.
Well, you all are trying to turn this episode into one on sleep deprivation as opposed to colon cancer awareness. Exactly. But we'll save that for a later time. We'll save that.
Absolutely.
So Gigi, let's dive in and learn about your story for those who are less familiar with you and some of the things that you've gone through. But Danette brought up the fact that you're a survivor of colon cancer. But what was life like before the diagnosis of colon cancer?
Well, life for me was a little bit stressful. So I thought it was a little bit stressful. It was really stressful. My diet consists of escargot, steak, fried chicken, baked chicken, however I can get chicken, and seafood here and there, and I thought I was living this lavish, lifestyle through food. I had owned a business in our high district area called Power and Light District here in Kansas City. So of course, celebrities would come for concerts and everything, but also would come to my business. And I had to know where to send them for food and etc. and shopping and so on and so forth. So with that being said, that's what my diet consists of. A little bit of veggies, but mostly meat.
Okay.
Owning that business in that district, very new district, the city decided that it needed a streetcar to come through the Power and Light District to take people here and there, and just to, to not really reinvent, but also to upgrade our downtown area to make it more scalable like other cities. However, when they did that, I didn't think that they really thought about the businesses. Most of the businesses around me went out of business. However, the crane sat in front of my store for months. And what that mean was customers couldn't get through the door. And I was losing a lot. At that time, I was still putting money into the business from my home. I was leveraging other things, and, which sometimes, we don't pull out when we should, when we say, oh, it's done. I thought, I really thought that after 2 years, if I can just hang in there, if I can just hang in there, even though it was killing me slowly, I wouldn't let go until I was diagnosed with colon cancer. Then I released it.
Wow.
In 2015, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, what symptoms did you start to experience?
Actually, I had nothing. I had nothing. What really happened was Obamacare happened. And with me owning a business, it was perfect. You know, I had an opportunity to go get everything checked out, and that's what I wanted. I was turning 50, and of course, insurance, when you turn 50, colonoscopies, they pay for colonoscopies. So I had everything done. And my doctor didn't recommend that to me. I recommended it to him. And I had that done, and they told me.
So you fell into you actually got access, which is something we talked about last week on our show, is really about the lack of access inside of the communities and some of the roles that plays in terms of disease progression. So absolutely, there's a benefit in terms of insurance. Absolutely.
Right. It is 100%. It is a benefit to have insurance. And when you don't have it, you know, and then, you know, there's other people that have other insurance, you know, from, being on assistance or something like that. But however, sometimes we have to suggest to our own doctor what needs to be done with us. Because I believe in our community, we're just sometimes just a number. And the complaint or whatever is not as should I say, as our counterpart. You know, if I have pain here, let's just take this and that. And it could be related to other things. But I go back to my to the story. I had no symptoms. So I knew I was going to be, in my mind, check out okay, because I had no symptoms, no cramping, nothing. And after the colonoscopy, I was told that they wanted to do a biopsy because they found something. And I said, okay. They said, well, you don't have much to worry about. It should be okay. So I thought, okay, this is fine. But then a couple of weeks later, the GI doctor gave me a call and suggests that I come in, and he wanted to talk to me about his findings. And I said, well, you can go ahead and tell me now, because I didn't think he found anything, I didn't think anything was serious. And he had told me that I had colon cancer and I needed to speak with a surgeon to have surgery. And he said, I may need chemo and some other things. So my life changed completely. I would have never thought in a million years that I would have had that would happen to me. I thought, because of how I grew up, what I was eating was healthy. I thought, this is the lifestyle, right? Soul food lifestyle, which is slave food. That's what you call it. So I really thought that I was doing really well. I went to see the surgeon, and I was preparing to have surgery, and I asked him a couple of questions. What did he think could have caused this to happen to me? It doesn't run in my family. No one else have had colon cancer or even cancer. And he told me, he said, it's stress and nutrition. And I went home and prayed like I never prayed before, because when he said that, it kind of hit me in the belly. And what that was, it's the God within us. I felt that if I have surgery, that I would truly die. And what I needed to do was fix what was causing it. What caused it in the first place. I decided to do some research. And Lord and behold, what you talked about a little while ago, the China study came on, and Dr. Colin Campbell talked about how you can turn disease on and off by the choices that we make in nutrition and food. And I thought, I got it, right? So I started doing research on that, but on YouTube, you see a lot of craziness and a lot of foolery
Yeah.
about ways that you can beat cancer. It just did not resonate with me because it was just ridiculousness. However, Dr. Colin Campbell's book didn't give you the foods to eat. It didn't give you, what any instructions. And then I heard of this place called Hippocrates and what they do there. So what I decided to do was not have surgery. I believed that, and I had faith that I can heal myself by.
Tell us about Hippocrates. So Hippocrates it's a live-in residential
Right. Hippocrates,
lifestyle.
yeah, Hippocrates Health Institute been around for over 60 years. They help people help themselves, especially when people have been diagnosed with, are sent home to die from cancer or any other disease, Lyme disease, high blood pressure, whatever it may be. I've seen people be in wheelchairs and next week up walking while I was there, but I decided to go there. And they teach you about living foods and what living foods are, because our body is alive and it craves foods that are living to help heal it. And what I mean by that is, raw foods, leafy greens, carrots, all these different foods that sprouts, sunflower sprouts, pea sprouts, the list kind of goes on, and other modalities like infusions, vitamin C, high doses of that, psychotherapists, going to see a therapist that is going to help you figure out what kind of caused this for you. How do we help you reduce the stress in your life? All of these different things was a part of that, and that's what they offer there. I was there for a month. I came back to Kansas City, and actually there in West Palm Beach, Florida. I came back to Kansas City, and I knew Hippocrates' way, in order for me to release cancer from my body, I would have to stay on this regimen for 2 years. And what that meant was no sugar. That includes fruits. Some people say, oh, fruits doesn't have any sugar, but the way, what has happened to our fruits here in America, it is sugar. It's very sweet. So I had to eliminate that from my diet. And I had to eat only raw nutritional foods that would go into my body and rebuild my cells that shrink tumors.
So you did this in Kansas City, barbecue capital of the United States. Is that right?
Absolutely. In Kansas City. Who would ever thought that?
Yeah.
In 2015, I was looking for ways to, eat, shopping for food. It had to be only organic foods, and working with farmers that don't spray their foods. I had to be extra careful, because we know now, the majority of our foods here in the United States are, has been sprayed, contaminated, GMO, that is causing us to be ill. They're causing all of these diseases. What's happening to us because of our food.
Yes.
It's how our food is processed.
So how did your family deal with the diagnoses and the transformation, the turnaround in your diet from eating escargot and prime rib to eating kale ribs?
I know, right? So what happened, I just couldn't tell my sons. I have 4 sons, and I didn't want to tell them yet because I knew how they would react. Even when I found out what was going on with me, I have no family in Kansas City. They're all in Arkansas. So I had to call my sisters to explain what happened, and they wanted to come up here and take care of me after surgery. But they had no idea I had decided against surgery. So I had to sit my sons down, had dinner at my house to tell them that their mother had colon cancer. And it was the worst thing to see those boys, grown men faces. And first thing they said, well, when is the surgery date? And I said, well, it's going to be here and there. So actually what happened was I did have a date for surgery. And like I was saying, I had prayed like I never prayed before in my life. And the next day was my surgery day, and my son was downstairs to pick me up. And I told him I wasn't going. Then he called his other brother and said, Mama lost her mind. You know, she has surgery this morning. I don't know what's going on with her, but she's not getting in the car. Then the other son comes, and the other son. And my oldest son says, well, her mind is made up. We just have to support her. She has not lost her mind. She's fine. And I told them that, you know, let's do it this way, son. I want to try food, and I want to allow the food to be my medicine. Let's see if I can heal myself, because I really believe that I could. And you have to be at a point in your life where you're strong enough and really believe that you can do it. And you're right, food is addicting. And I had to make my mind up to no longer eat chicken and steak and barbecue and all these other foods. I had to make my mind up that. And it was easier for me because of my sons and because I have grandchildren.
Wow.
And what I had to do too was friends that didn't understand, I had to cut people off. Because what happens is, you know, people want the best for you. They love you, but they don't understand. And if you listen to them when your mind is made up, then you go back to what you used to do. Or you will, you know, stress. It brings about stress again. And then it brings about doubt. And then it makes you believe you can't do it, you know, because they believe this is the only way, surgery and chemo. And it wasn't my path.
So how did your doctors respond to your decision, and did they schedule a follow-up type of exam for you to assess you?
Well, they called every day for surgery, and it was almost getting to the point of, you know, threatening, you know, in a way, because it was almost, well, I'll say harassment. By the way, I did go and get a second opinion, and it was the same. But after 2 years, I decided to go back and get a colonoscopy. And I was told that, I was asked afterwards what had happened. And I said, what do you mean? They said, we see where dye was in your colon, but we don't see where you had to have a tumor or something there. And it wasn't there anymore, but the dye was still there. I guess they, before surgery, they kind of put dye within the colon to spot where exactly the cancer is. And it was no longer there.
Wow. Wow.
And sending those documents over to the original surgeon, that really made him stop calling. But however, I still go, and he wanted me to come in every 6 months for a colonoscopy. But now, I go in every year or two to have that done. Now, I'm 80-20, meaning 80% raw, 20% cooked. I'm still vegan, of course, 100% plants. I don't eat any processed foods. And this is my lifestyle, because that's what it is. It's a lifestyle. And it was a lifestyle change for me. And it was difficult. My family, my sisters, no one else have changed, but I do challenges with them. Going vegan for a week and sending recipes and all sorts of stuff. My 2 sons are vegan. My granddaughter is vegan. Dr. Baptiste was in Kansas City for Midwest Soul Vegfest, and my granddaughter was one of the speakers. She's 13.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'll tell you, it's clear, and I want you to touch on this a bit more, and Eric, jump in whenever, but it's clear that this life circumstance really has transformed the trajectory of your life in terms of your reach, your touch, your purpose. And I see that just from not only your business, your outreach, and what you're doing for individuals, definitely there inside the city of Kansas City, and even now as you spread your story across the internet. How has that been?
Absolutely. I would say if you would have asked me years ago if this would be my life, I'd say you lost your mind. You crazy? Because I know I ain't. No, never. I would have never thought that this would be my life right now. I would have never thought. I was, like I said, I was boutique, high fashion, and loads of makeup and stilettos and all kinds of stuff, you know. And now I don't wear any makeup but lip gloss. So, but I still try to look cute, you know. But
nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that.
But I would have never thought that, you know, a health challenge would have changed my life dramatically like it has. And I believe that things in life happens for a reason. And right. I believe that I found my purpose. And, you know, I always felt like my purpose was to help people in some fashion. But now it has opened and it allows me the opportunity to help people become well. And I would have never met you, Dr. Baptiste, you know, if it wasn't for what I'm doing now and to see what all that you're doing in your practice and how you're helping others. I would have never changed my diet. I love food too much, and especially chicken.
Well, I mean, that's the crazy part, though, is that you have a restaurant now, though.
Yeah. I even
somebody asked where the restaurant is. So it's in Kansas City. Is there a part of town so they can find it?
We're in Westport, 1103 Westport Road, Kansas City, Missouri. And who would have thought? And I'll tell you a story about that. Matter of fact, so after the 2-year transformation and everything, I had so many people. I started posting about veganism and health and wellness. So I would have classes at a location, Greg Center or whatever, a grocery store, about going vegan and eating more healthier foods and leafy greens and what that. So I would do that. And then some people would say, well, can you make me green juice? Because I would post my green juice and making sure everyone have green juice in the morning. And so I started making green juice out of my house for customers. And then that slowly turned into a detox program and so on and so forth.
Wow.
And the interesting thing was, and then I started I would post, I was making kale chips and I was making them for my grandchildren. They all air dried. You know, everything I was eating is raw. And my kale chips are air dried. And I was making them for the grandbabies and they loved them. And then when I would get out and go to juice bars and everything, because I make so many, I would just hand them out and post them on Instagram. So one juice bar said, hey, can you sell them here? And Lord and behold, Gigi's kale chips are sold throughout Kansas City.
Nice.
And that started to happen. And after that, I was, I went to a program in New York for culinary arts, raw foods. Went through that program because I had to learn to feed myself, right? Raw food.
That's right.
And I went through that program, and one day I was driving around and something said, go this way. And I'm like, why am I going this way? There was a little house that said 4 leaves. And I said, no, I don't want another business. Brick and mortar, So it just happened. It fell in my lap. The owner came and he was there. And my son, I named Black Jesus, and I'll tell you why another day, but he knows how to build anything, I tell you, he's a certified electrician. But anyway, he remodeled the entire place, and it is beautiful. It's warm, and it's really a loving place. And we do a lot there, not only at Gigi's Vegan Cafe Plus Wellness, that we make food, healthy food, but we also have wellness through supplements, vitamins, other nutrition. We teach workshops. We have infrared sauna. We have other energy medicine, I call it, upstairs, that we assist our customers with. We do food prep, meal plans, and coaching.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. I mean, the only thing I'm upset about is that when you had me out there for the Midwest Vegfest, you didn't even have me at the restaurant,
You
right? Because you was, you know, I mean, you talking about all this good food, and we did have some good food when we went to after everything there. So I can't even lie about that.
When
We're gonna have to come.
You gonna come back this year?
You have listen. We're Pat. You gotta bring my boy Eric, Dr.
Okay.
Walsh.
I will.
Yes.
Do it this year. It's gonna be amazing this year.
Yeah, we'll have to definitely.
I wanted to bring something in that someone said. We're getting a lot of comments about how inspiring this story is, and I have to say I'm inspired. I think you are a role model for how to use the medical system appropriately. And as a physician, a lot of people don't. Yeah. What a lot of people think is that the doctors are supposed to give the solutions. The doctors are supposed to guide you to the best possible solution outcome. And that's what you did for yourself. Right. And someone said, you know, can you believe these doctors? Like, you know, they only recommend surgery and chemo. But I think everyone also needs to understand when we not everyone is going to do what she did. In fact, you're a slim minority of people who make such a significant change to their lifestyle, and hold on to that change so long that you get that 2 year later colonoscopy that's negative. So I want people to understand, you know, the medical profession we talk about all the time clearly needs more information on nutrition and whole food, plant-based, but it's coming. There's a whole lifestyle medicine specialty now. Yes. But talk to us a little bit about, you know, how you began, if you began to feel different. Did anything begin to happen?
I want to say something about the doctors. I think doctors are so important for us. If it wasn't for the doctor to give me the diagnosis, I never would have been where I am today. So I want to say, hats go out to all of you guys, you know, for you know, making our body well. And if it wasn't for the doctor that said to me, it's stress and nutrition.
Right.
He told me what it was. So it's up to me, right? It's up to me. Yeah. So no, the doctors don't just, they suggest that to you because they want you, you know, they want to help you as much as possible. But for me, it was like, okay, I'll be in the same boat again. It'll come back because I didn't change anything. Right? I didn't have a lifestyle change. So within 4 or 5 years, the cancer would have reappeared. That was a Band-Aid, you know. So I just want to say that, you know, if it wasn't for the doctor telling me, you know, what caused that to happen to me, the rest is up to me. You know,
let me say this: flesh, and the way that my grandmother would say it, flesh and blood did not reveal that to you. You mentioned multiple times that you prayed. Yeah. And I think God really directed you to look outside of where you were. That's the only way it really makes full and complete sense. Based on the way you were grown up, you grew up to believe what was healthy. Something stirred, something else had to move. And let me say this: there are folks talking about doctors don't heal, but I'm telling you, there's some phenomenal doctors who put people on plant-based diets and actually do help them heal. My mother had cancer. And she went to a place called not Weimar. She went to the one in Georgia, and Wildwood, and there's like a retreat center that's all whole food and plant based. And she was able to hold her cancer at bay and live longer because of what the doctors there and the people there did. So not every doctor is the same. There are a lot of us as doctors who really want our patients to make the kind of lifestyle changes that take away disease, not just you know, not just hold, like you said, a Band-Aid over it. Right.
And you're definitely right, because now I work with a lot of doctors and I write their nutritional script for their clients.
I love it. Love it. Love it.
Because you know, and change. They went through certain things with their parents, or it's just God's sources hitting them. Boom, wake up call. They're tired of their customers, it's not customers, patients back and forth, and they cannot help them.
Yeah.
When they know there's a disconnect, there's something else causing this, you know. And I guess it's almost like Hippocrates, right? Let their food be their medicine, and that's what he was saying way back then, right? Because he was he was actually giving them surgery would happen, but then they would go back to the same thing. And he's like, no, I can't heal you, but food can. This is it.
Absolutely.
You know?
Absolutely. I think just to echo what Eric mentioned about the docs, but even more so about you, because you have the wherewithal to say, let me, as my wife says, let me inspect what I expect, right? So you're expecting this transformation.
Yeah.
So you said, let me inspect it by doing a follow-up, right? To make sure it's going the direction that it needs to go on a consistent basis. And that's powerful. That's powerful, and that's very cerebral in terms of that approach. That's not an emotional approach. That's a cerebral approach, and so I applaud you for that. I also want to applaud you because you've mentioned, as Eric brought out multiple times, that you prayed. I've heard you before mention in terms of meditation and the power of the mindfulness, of the mindful state is a keystone habit in the forms of transformation, and it's irrespective of belief system of where you hold true. But when you're able to do that, and when you're able to center that focus that's there on the true power, transformation follows suit. And so that's wonderful. That's wonderful.
And,
hey, Gigi.
Faith of I always say having that faith of mustard seed, having faith. You have to have faith and believe that you can do it. But you know what? I didn't have to do it. I didn't eat all of the living foods this day and then had a banana the next day and wonder why it didn't work. No, I stuck to it and I stuck it out. Was it hard? Yes, it was. Did I keep the faith? Yes, I did. Did I believe that I could do it? Yes, because I know who was with me. God was with me every step of the way.
Let me just put this in. We don't often talk about this on here, but we talk a lot about stress and its damages. And one of the things I like about your testimony here is you talk about how high stress you were. Mm-hmm. You give the backdrop that you came into this when your store was, crane was in front of your store and all the stress you had. But I want everyone to get that there is a straight line you can draw from the fact that you trust God, Gigi. You trust God, and when you prayed, your faith grew, like you said, a mustard seed. Mm-hmm. This is why trust in God is one of the pillars of health, because it is one of the ways as it acts like a shock absorbent for the stresses of life. Yeah. When you're able to put your trust in the living God, you eat living food because you believe in the living God. Woo! And when you do that, things change, and you get the results you got.
Going to church up in here. Go on. Yes, we have some church. That's church.
Hey, Gigi, this is Danette. How are you?
Hi, gorgeous.
It's nice to see you. It's so nice to see you. And I just want to add to what Eric just mentioned, in the sense that God may have put that crane there to slow you down.
Wow.
So
all things work together for good.
Sister.
Yeah, it definitely works.
When I look at it, when I go back and to now, and I look at it, I'm like, ooh, now I know why it happened.
Right.
It was going to have to happen
all the way. Yeah.
so that I can shift from what I was doing to where I am now.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you know what it's like? Your testimony is like you went from being the caviar, the lobster, and the steak to being the living food in people's lives.
Absolutely.
Right? If the word is food, you are now that good food.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And someone said to me, oh, since you healed yourself, why don't you go back? Why don't you have this? I said, why would I want that dead food? That's just disgusting. I said, I feel so good. I'm like, you know what? When you feel fantastic, why would I even want to go back to that? I have no reason. I feel too good.
Absolutely. Well, I've got some questions, then and then we'll just go through those really quick in our last few minutes. A point of clarity: Chadwick Boseman was 44 when he passed away.
Yes,
so we talked about that. So we've got that clarified.
He was not 45, which was our point.
He was not 45.
He was not yet at the age where he was start getting screening.
That's true.
So, which tells you you have to be careful how you eat from young. That's what
from early on. And so the question to you, Gigi, is how important do you feel it is to advocate for your own health?
I think it's very important. And I want to understand that question. Is it advocating to your doctor for your own health, or even, within your community? Right. I think that 100%, like I mentioned before, is your doctor. When you go in and you see your doctor, you know, for a routine checkup or whatever it is, pain here, what it may be. I think a lot of times, even with my situation with the colonoscopy, the doctors never even bring it up.
Right. So you advocate it.
You have to ask.
Okay.
Even breast exam, you know, I don't know. You know, it was never brought up. So I don't know if I want to blame my doctor for it, but it's up to us. We have to do it. We have to advocate for our own health.
Absolutely.
It's up to us.
Absolutely. And then the question, go ahead.
Real quick, since we quote the scripture, let me throw this one at you. My people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge.
Absolutely.
You have to know and then do better based on what you know.
Right.
Absolutely.
And I need all of those quotes emailed to me, sir.
He's working on a devotional, Gigi. So I'm just gonna throw that out. He is working on his plant-based devotional. So I suggest we're gonna allow you to be one of the editors of that information.
Absolutely. I'm ready.
Okay. So this next question is for Dr. Batiste and Dr. Walsh. Is there a point with cancer when plant-based treatments only will not work? Did you guys understand the question?
Yes.
Okay.
And there is the human body is like anything else. I mean, if you damage a car far enough, it really, you can get to a point where you got to total a car and get another car. Right. And the human body, I mean, there are lines that you cross where the deficit is so great that it's difficult to pull back from. Okay. But I would say that even in those circumstances, so let's say the colon cancer is spread, it's all over your body. You've lost a lot of weight, the liver is impacted, and and it's really a downward spiral. That it would be difficult because what it is it takes time for the food to recover you. Okay. And if you don't have enough time left on Earth for the food to catch up to how sick you are, it can be difficult. But what I would tell people is changing your diet can at least make it so that whatever time you have left is definitely more pleasant, and it is still probably best hope you have of reversing it if depending on how sick you might be. So it's no matter how you look at it, it's a better way to go because you will feel better and have a better course no matter what the final outcome is. Actually.
Okay. And Dr. Batiste, can you add to that?
No, Dr. Walsh summarized it very well. I mean, I think the quote that kind of makes a statement, I'm going to edit this somewhat, but it's basically that we never know what will come of our actions. But if there is no action, nothing will ever happen, right? So here's the thing: is that if I adopt a whole food plant-based diet and I live for 5 years, I don't know that had I not, I would have for sure died at 2 years, right? So you don't know what will happen as a result of your action, but the wealth of the studies that are out there, the wealth of the information tells us that it's going to help extend your life. And it's power that's there. One thing I want to throw in there too, as well, is that we're all praying for the Ukraine right now and what's transpiring there inside of that country. And I tell my patients this here as of late, is that if someone told us a year and a half ago, except for those who are really into politics, that there was going to be a war that would erupt in the Ukraine, you might have just kind of said, really? No, I don't think so. But there was conflict that was smoldering for some time. There was stuff that was happening that you may perhaps not have perceived. And that's the same thing with your health. There's always a level of inflammation and fire and conflict that's happening. And what you do can either add to the conflict or it can help to resolve it in terms of your actions, in terms of the stress, reducing the stress, in terms of the food, in terms of the exercise, something we don't talk about oftentimes here, but exercise is extremely powerful, even for colon cancer. Moving, while you're watching this, get up and move, do some steps in place. That's going to be a key towards longevity.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. Okay, and I think we have time for maybe one more question, and that is someone wanted to know, how can I help teach others about the whole food lifestyle since I don't have a science or nutritional background? They've been plant-based since July 2020.
Yeah, I'll say live it. Keep living it. The best way for you to do is to be an example. Right. You have healthful foods for you to have a spirit of that's receptive and engaging folks too as well. I think that's there. You have to do it by love. not by beating folks up. I mean, as you listen to Gigi's story, what did she do? She shared. People like, hey, can you make some juice? And she made some juice. They said, hey, I want to eat this. I like this kale chips. Okay, kale chips. Now they start to spread. So you see that through love, that's how you can impact people. And it starts and stops with love in terms of action.
I would throw in there something else Gigi said that I thought was profound when she said she came to New York and studied how to, let me tell you something. That was one of the most powerful parts of her story, because it wasn't enough for her to figure out what she needed to do to get better. She became, I'm going to say this for you, G, you became a better tool in the hand of God, because you gained the skills so that you could share better with other people. And that's why, you know, we are honored to have you on now, because you're actually able to you didn't just transform your life, you're impetus for others to transform theirs.
And something I didn't mention is that I sold my car, I sold my house, I did everything that I could to get to the point of where I am now. So I didn't have the money to do it. You know, I had a car, I'm like, okay, there's money there, I can sell that and go and do what I need to do, you know, for my health, for my life. And I did that. So I technically started over. Yeah. So it wasn't easy. I had nothing. But I did have, you know, things to sell, and moved into a little apartment. And because, again, you know, still today, I'm still on my journey as well.
Absolutely.
We all are, right? We're all at different phases.
We've only got a few minutes left. And so, Gigi, like, what would you like to leave the audience behind with?
Well, I do want to say, for those folks that's listening right now from Kansas City, Missouri, this month, March 19th, Colon Cancer Awareness Month, I am having a health and wellness fair at Greg Center. It is from noon to 4. I not only am I speaking, but I also have a GI doctor that's going to give a presentation of how ways of prevention, ways of what is a colonoscopy, why you should have one. And that's going to be really great. We have free food, live music. We also have kits where you can go home and test yourself, which is free screening. There's going to be a lot of things going on, lots of vendors, but we want you to come down and support, and also get educated while you're there.
Well, if you're able to like transmit at least the lectures, if you have like an online platform for that, definitely share that with us, and we'll make sure that we share it as well.
Okay, thank you.
Can people find your like ways to get to your meal plans and stuff, or if they go on your website or contact you?
Absolutely. I have 2 websites. The one that I sent to you is gigithevegan.com. And then there's Gigi's vegancafe.com. And the cafe have the meal plans and etc. Gigi the Vegan herself have her cookbooks and so on and so forth, that website.
Fantastic.
So they'll be able to get that. And then my social media is always Gigi the Vegan. You can definitely find me there. I'm posting educational information, what's going on in the vegan community, plant-based community. Again, that's
love it, Gigi.
Also, I do want to say something. Early screening is so important. I really believe that we should start screening at 25 to 35, you know, especially right now with what's happening in our food, you know, with what's taking place in our nutrition when it relates to nutrition. It is so important. Early screening is so important. Let's get screened.
Fantastic. Absolutely. And Dr. Batiste, do you have any closing words?
Wow. Closing words. You know, I'm still a line from another Eric, right? Not this Eric. This is the Eric Walsh, but Eric Thomas, who says, you know, you got one as bad as you can breathe. And that's what Gigi really embodies today, right? Is that she wanted health so bad that she sold her car. She wanted health so bad, she sold her house. She wanted health so bad that she gave up everything and defied really the logic of the modern time, right? And said, I want this for me. And she didn't do it blindly. She said, I'm going to still follow up and check and make sure what I'm doing is working. And there's power there. And I think she leaves us with this sense of power and motivation that I'm motivated What are we willing to do to achieve health, to deliver the message of health on a consistent basis? And I think so. There's so much that you have that you packed into your message, whether or not you knew it or not, that I think impacts all of us as we listen to you, Gigi. So thank you. I didn't quite know all of what I was getting when we invited you to this conversation, but you're more appreciated than you know.
Thank you so much.
It's almost like her story is the converse of the rich young ruler, right? He asked him to sell everything and follow him, and Gigi sold everything and followed him. So this is the outcome that would have happened otherwise. Okay, and Dr. Walsh?
I would just say this is very inspirational. Your story is incredible. You're an incredible woman, and I'm glad to see you're an incredible woman of God. And what we really, what all of us should take away from this is the power of faith. Because at first it was really how powerful it is that you overcame colon cancer diagnosis. But after sitting and listening to you, what's really powerful is that when you went through the fiery furnace of this life, you came out pure gold. You were submissive to what God wanted you to do. And look at you now. I mean, like you said, you found your purpose. Those are the most powerful words you said tonight. You found your purpose. And I hope everyone understands this. Health is wealth, but it is nothing if it doesn't transform you spiritually as well. And so we thank you for that. That was awesome. I make sure I get a lot of people to watch this one and hear that great story.
Thank you so much.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us. And you guys will be back next month, or? Yeah.
So it's a secret. This is a secret release. We have to. But listen, you make sure you stay following, right? Because guess what? We will be back. That's guaranteed.
Okay. Well, Healthy Heart Nation will be presenting the third Friday of every month at 7 p.m. So we'll be posting our upcoming discussion, a discussion with Women's Month. So we'll be sending out some information on that. So thank you all for joining us, and enjoy the rest of your evening.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Takara.